Well, there's a new poll that just came out, and it is a snapshot of race in America. And I want to ask you guys the same question. This is a series of questions. I'll just get to the top line one, and tell me how you think respondents came back. And the first question was, race relations, are they generally bad? Do you think most Americans said yes or no to that question?
Yes. I think the answer is yes.
Yes, they are bad?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Dominic?
Yes,
I think they're
especially
worse than
given
they've
the
been in a long
media
time.
coverage of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You agree too?
I mean, I wouldn't have thought it. I know the answer, but I
Yep.
wouldn't have thought it.
57%, just like you guys say, believe race relations are generally bad. And if you asked that same question just a few years ago, just to give you an idea of trend, that number would have been below the 50% mark. People thought, as you looked at the trending line, that it was continuously going in the right direction with the majority of Americans. Now, in terms of whether or not they're getting better or getting worse, take a look at these numbers. Again, most people believe that we are going in the wrong direction. And by a healthy margin, I think. And then finally, when asked the same question about race relations as to whether they're bad or not, broken down by race here, whites and blacks, not too surprisingly, African Americans believe they're getting worse. 68% of blacks, while 56% of whites also said it as much. You think it's just media, Dominic? Because I ask this of you because every time we talk about something caught on video and then people react to it, you say, it's been going on forever. Finally, it's just being caught on video, the same thing.
Literally going on
So
forever.
why do you think African Americans who've lived this life here and through generations could trace back to literally slavery, why do they think that things are getting worse if they believe this reality has been going on the whole time? It's only now going public.
Well, because it's going on and has consistently been going on, that doesn't mean you have to like it. No one wants to be abused, no matter
No, but
the
they say it's
circumstances.
getting worse.
Well, I guess it's all relative, and I think that people, whether it's fair or not, it wasn't fair to Mandela, it wasn't fair to Dinkins, but in terms of being the first. But with Obama, there are some, I guess, on both sides. I mean, let's be honest, what do many whites say? You got a black president, what's wrong now, right? You talk to black people, they'll tell you life is harder under this black president because there's a backlash in terms of from the establishment because of a black president. You can't impact on him, but what does it do? It impacts on you. Things are, I guess it's just a mess. I know some people of color that question whether or not a black president was a good thing because they believe things are actually worse now.
It's funny. If you look at the numbers, Andrew, stop and frisk, for example, just in New York City, if we're going to use metrics here, it's come down, the number of stops. You look at a crime, you can go through a lot of the numbers, and you'd say things, theoretically, if you didn't have the video, are getting better, not worse. Do you think if we didn't have captured and have dominant storylines, I can name at least 6 or 7 off the top of my head in the last 12 months, usually police-related shootings, unarmed men, or people dying in custody under questionable circumstances, and the same commonality, a black victim. If those weren't in the headlines for the last 12 months, do you think the numbers are reversed?
No, I don't. But I don't think.
Why?
Because I think that contributes to what I consider in this flashpoints. The stop and frisk or the protest that we've seen after Eric Garner or after Ferguson, to me feel like flashpoints. They're common issues that we have in common where we see racial divisions right in front of us. And I think between those flashpoints and between the economy, which there's a huge difference when it comes to African Americans and when it comes to non-black Americans, there's a huge difference. But I think those are really the two biggest divides that we have right now. I honestly think that in a lot of ways, race relations are actually better than they have been, maybe in my lifetime, and maybe in several. I mean, culturally, there seems to be greater equality. Professionally, there seems to be greater equality. It seems like, there's more, not mixing, but
Yeah,
there aren't as many stratified lines, although those lines still exist. I think it's the flashpoints in the economics that contribute to the sensation that things are getting worse.
I don't know. I obviously, from a white guy's perspective, I think without the flashpoints, I think most people think things are getting better, but you can't get around the flashpoints. And I think they bubble up all the old resentments and the double standards, and then it just comes to a head to say timeout. Not only do we get treated differently by the cops, we get treated differently by the judicial system, we get treated differently by the perceptions. There's two different Americas right now. And then even the Confederate flag and everything else that gets attached to it, even when it comes down, it's only a little part of the story. You know, I don't know. I mean, I know you answered how you think America would have answered, but you personally do think it's getting better or worse?
Well, I agree with all those points. I think in reality, it's obviously gotten so much better. I mean, I didn't grow up in the 60s, so I can't personally speak to that, but growing up, like for me, and I grew up in, you know, New York is a diverse state and everything, but even, you know, my time in Vermont, I don't know, I didn't grow up thinking about race, and maybe because I didn't have to, I wasn't in a position where I did, but yeah, I think the world did get much better, but then you have these flashpoints, and frankly, I think you have a lot of people with their own self-interest that look to capitalize on these flashpoints, and there's a void of leadership. There's a vacuum at the top saying, like, wait a minute, like, let's talk about where we really are. Let's talk about where we want to be. I mean, the people in South Carolina, I thought, you know, they really showed the world, like they were a real true model of what it means to come together after tragedy, whites and blacks coming together. I mean, it seems crazy to me that we're having these conversations now. In 2015, we came so far, and we have 2 terms of a black president, and yet race relations under him are even worse. And frankly, I think a lot of that is he has not taken advantage of the opportunity of helping to move the country forward.
That's marvelous.
Well,
That's marvelous spin.
Well,
It's Obama's fault.
right. I mean,
Don't you think he has a responsibility, as an African American man, don't you think he has a responsibility to help progress that conversation
Or is he
instead
the
of push it in the
last
other
last
direction?
person who could help progress that conversation?
I think that when President Obama is out of office, he's going to tell you that he's a black man just like the rest of us, and that the proof was him going up against Congress and the disrespect. The book he writes is going to be a doozy.
How about Michelle's?
Michelle, forget it. The situation in Texas, the Bland case. You use the term flashpoint.
Mm-hmm.
See, for a black person, we can't get past the racism, Richard, because that's our reality almost, I'm not going to say every day, and it doesn't happen every day, but that's the way we're treated. It's called driving while black. You guys don't have to deal with it. You're not ordered, for the most part, to put a cigarette out in your own car, and then it escalates, and then several days later, you committed suicide, and that's what the autopsy, I'm not making a mockery of it, because it's all very sad. But that's the reality. Now, I also point out the problems of the black community. Now, I'm not going to get started with that right now, but the black on black crime, the breakdown of the black family, the family unit, the amount of kids born out of wedlock. But the police, that's a major part of the problem. And so Obama, again, I'm coming full circle, when he's out of office, I will bet my life on it. He's going to tell you that he faced enormous racism as the president of the United States.
Well, to say all of his problems with Congress is because Congress is racist is a total cop-out. I mean, really.
Do you think that from the birthers and all the rest, he was treated differently? And I've had my own problems with the president, okay? Gun control, we'll go back to the last segment. Nobody's a bigger critic of what he did, or more importantly, didn't do in the aftermath when he had a pulpit and he tried to pass it on. That all said, for any of us to pretend that Bush, Clinton, or whoever the next person that goes in the office will get treated exactly the same way and have the same questions, and you and I have heard the same off-color conversations, you know, when the cameras aren't on, what people that we know, what they'll say about the president, the jokes they'll say about the first family.
And they did the same thing to George Bush.
Different, come on.
No, it's not different. I'm sorry. This president has been wholly incompetent, and that's why he's faced so much trouble in Congress. I'm not saying he's never encountered racism. I could never make a claim like that. But the problem is his policies and and how he's completely disregarded Congress and the Constitution.
but
That's
now-
why
yeah,
he's
but
faced
now-
the challenges.
But now
he's
we're missing
faced.
it,
Yeah.
and I beg your pardon on this. Now we're missing it because this was a conversation about race relations in the United States, and now we're talking about President Obama. President Obama is not race relations in the United States.
But that's what it comes down to. That's one of those
That's what this
flashpoints that you
conversation-
talk about.
It is. We need to tamp those down, but we also need to have the conversation about the actual issue, about actual race relations and things we can actually do.
I mean, my God, the Secret Service can't even protect this president the way that they've protected other presidents. Do you think the black community
Oh,
doesn't
so
and-
now
and-
Secret
oh,
Service
do you think
is
the black
racist
community-
too?
and
And
you think
right
the black
there,
community
right
doesn't know
there,
this stuff?
right there,
It's
my
like-
right there, my viewing public. You've just seen as soon as you pull the cap off, all you gotta do is read a poll number. That's where we are in 2015. Okay. When we come back here, Jessica's favorite topic, Hillary Clinton. There's been a lot of smoke in the Hillary Clinton email controversy, but so far no fire. Does the government finally have a case here? And is there a smoking gun at all? We'll talk about that after this.